I just fished a tournament at Cedar Bluff where the bite was fast, but not the kind you want. I caught 25 fish, lost a giant, and never even boated a keeper. Let's break down exactly what happened and what I'd do differently next time. All right, guys, welcome to the Cedar Bluff tournament breakdown video everybody's been waiting for. So, start off with tournament info. This tournament took place on May 17th and 18th. I only fished May 17th because that's all I have time for. Tournament started pretty early in the morning. The sun's coming up early. Safe flight was around 6 a.m. It was a $130 entry fee. There was, I believe, 17 boats. This Lake Cedar Bluff here in Kansas is usually known as one of the big bass factories in Kansas. As you can see, the big bag for silted water bass came in October of 2023 when Charlie Scheid and Chrisman caught a 23-pound bag. There's been up to 28-pound bags caught here. A lot of really big fish being caught in the last few years. So going into this, that's what I was planning on. 2-day combined record, you're looking at 35 pounds. So there's lots of really big fish being caught here. So this is where we blasted out of off in Page Creek here because there was another tournament going on. They were blasting off at the other ramp. As you can see, it's absolutely full of trees right around the boat ramp even. The entire lakeshore is surrounded by trees in the water because this lake has gone up and down over the years. I think it's ever only been full twice. Like right now it's like 20 foot or 30 foot low. And it dropped a foot right before the tournament. Bait fish in here, you're looking at crappie, white bass, bluegills, and definitely some shad. But what it has is timber and rocky banks, not really any grass to speak of. And yeah, I just broke it down from there. So weather the day of the tournament was going to be, leading up to it, it had been very warm in the 80-degree range. The night before the tournament, it did cool down, as you can see, around 46 degrees. Let's move this over so you can see it. It got down to 46, 47 degrees. It was a little chilly in the morning, but the high for the day was close to 80 degrees, which was really nice. Wind was going to be very calm in the morning and then increasing throughout the day. Generally a pretty good setup for post-spawn. Definitely some nice weather. Could have used some clouds probably, but other than that, was not super upset with the weather. It was nice not to have an insane amount of wind to start the tournament. All right, so leading up to this thing, I figured it was going to be a post-spawn mostly tournament. I knew there'd probably still be some fish spawning, but not enough to attack. So I started breaking down areas. First, I looked at this Navionics map here, and I just started to look where the channel swings near the bank. First of all, you have this right here, where this is where the main river enters the lake, and most of this right now is out of the water. This place does not have the best Navionics mapping, but you can see the creek channel on here. That's what's most important. So the channel swings in here. It's kind of muddy up in here. There's a good channel swing along this bank, and then another channel swing along this bank. And then there's a bunch of spawning flats right in here and right in here. And then I looked at these northern pockets here. This one is absolutely full of trees, okay? I'm telling you, like, from the mouth to the back, pretty much all trees, except for some areas right in the middle. So, but that interested me. There were some areas back in here I thought could be good. And then this little cove doesn't have a lot. It has some timber, but nothing crazy, nothing special. And then this cove here, this is where I fished in November. This has a lot of flats and a lot of trees and deep areas. It has docks, has a little bit of everything. So this was an option for me to start in. I thought about it. And then over here, this cove here is just a basic cove. Nothing special about it. Trees around the edge, kind of just nothing for me that stood out. And then the main cove here, with the water being low, it's mostly just deep, the whole thing. There's not a lot of flats here, so I didn't think there was a big spawning population in this pocket. I mean, there probably was, but not exactly what I was looking for. Plus, I thought maybe a lot of guys would go there. And also the creek where we started on, this one is full of trees as well. I basically bypassed that because that's where we were starting. Thought maybe it would have a lot of pressure. These two pockets here, pretty nonchalant. Didn't really feel like they had anything. Actually, this one here, this is all land right now. So this little shoe comes in, and this interested me, and I thought maybe about starting here. So then I decided to jump over to Google Earth. What I like to do when I get on Google Earth and look at a lake is I like to go and find a map that's as near the water level as what we're actually seeing. And this map here was current just last October, so it was pretty close. The water's a little bit lower than this right now, but this was about as close as I could get. And then I go back and find the lower water levels. So I went back to like 2016, 2015 when the water was very low, 2014. And what I tried to find were areas where the water came back into these flats. So you have this little pocket here, comes right back into this flat. This is very shallow all the time. It's like 2-3 feet right now. But you do have this deeper area that kind of pushes back up in here, allows some of these females to fall off after spawning and hang out. Same thing over here. This is deep all the way back, and then there's a nice spawning flat here. So that was a really good area I thought might work. Also, these flats out here in front of this pocket, this is a little more main lake. These are pretty shallow, 5-6 foot of water right now, and then it falls off into deep water all around it. Plus, there's trees all over it, super nice. Same thing here. There's a little indention going into a flat, and this pocket here. I don't like the back of this pocket much. There's really not anything in it, but this edge going off here has some nice trees along an edge, which I thought looked pretty good. I also looked over into this pocket, like I said. This point here is a nice flat. It has deep water next to it on both sides. Thought that looked pretty interesting. But right here, what I saw, let me show you over here what I saw. So this is a live satellite image that they update almost every day or every other day or so. So I was looking at this pocket, and here's where that flat is right here. And I see this darkening right here in the water. And in my mind, I start thinking grass. Okay, so I think there might be some grass growing up here, right here. And that really triggers me into thinking that there might be something going on right here. It's all trees out through here, possibly grass through here. A great spot for some females to hang out, either off the trees off this edge or right in that grass. At least I thought was grass. Okay, so that's that flat. This is where I thought the grass was, and then you can see there's a nice edge here on the low water map. Then I started looking here, and I like going up these rivers sometimes because there tend to be, especially in these Nebraska reservoirs, there tend to be a lot of largemouth that like to go up in here. There's generally shallower, warmer water, lots of cover, things like that. So I was looking at this, and I was like, well, this could be a really nice spawning pocket here. Right here, this pocket, all this flats right here could be really nice for spawning, okay? Plus this flat here. So I'm like, where are these fish going to go when they come out of here? And then I started looking right here, and I noticed that these rocks are different than everywhere else on the lake. These are super white rocks, and they go all the way here, and the creek channel flows right up against this whole bank. And then as you zoom in, you can basically see the river channel here. And then there's trees right up along the bank. Let's go to the current map. Yeah, so as you can see, trees right along the bank, creek channel right along the bank. And this was just like dinner bell to me. I said, I figured these areas here, right where the creek channel swings away from the bank, this flat could be really good leading right into this sharp area. And then I figured right, let's see, right here, there's a little indention here I thought could be really good. All right, so anyway, I was looking at this bank, so I noticed these channel swings right up here, right at the end of this. This is a good transition. You can see the rock changes to a little more of that clay there. And then right here, there's a little indention. And then right over here, there's a channel swing here right before this pocket, and another one here right before this pocket. So this is a humongous flat, one of the biggest flats on the lake, all back here. I figured there had to have been a ton of spawning fish here. This is kind of a similar situation here, but I avoided it because it tends to be muddier, quite a bit muddier than this here. And you can even see in this image the mud line. So for some reason, this area is a lot more clear than this here. And I've noticed that last time I fished here. So this stood out to me. I decided right now that this would be my starting spot. I wanted to start right here where this little indention was and then work my way this way. So that was the plan. And that was what we were going to do. And I figured there had to have been loaded up some bass on this thing, especially males pushing out fry guards, and also a ton of females should be set up right in this area. So day of the tournament, we blast off out of here. We got drawn like number 9 out of 17. We blast off, take off the boat right away, kind of sluggish, but then I slow it down, start again, boom, she takes off. But we're slow. We only go about 38 mile an hour. We got passed by several boats leading over here. Head down the lake, and I go around this corner, and there is a boat sitting right here, and it's the 2 guys that generally win at this tournament are sitting right in that spot. which kind of made me feel good because I figured I picked a pretty good starting spot considering I've only fished here once. And so they're sitting there, so I decided to go to my next best spot, which is right here. We swing right in here off this, right where this channel swing is, going into here. So right away, I'm thinking buzzbait, topwater. So I start right in here, start working down this bank, and I'm throwing the buzzbait. And my son is throwing, my partner, my son, he is throwing a whopper plopper. And it just seems like the buzzbait and the whopper plopper were too much. Like there wasn't anything blowing up on the surface. It was very quiet, very calm, and it was just the buzzbait and whopper plopper were very loud. I threw it a little while, and it just didn't feel right. So then I decided we got to switch it up. So I put on the Vixen. Well, I already had the Vixen tied on, but I started throwing the Vixen around a little bit. Threw that for about 15 minutes, and still just didn't feel like there was a topwater bite going on. So I figured I would have got some sort of blow up or, oh, not to mention, when I first pulled in here, as I was passing these guys, they caught a fish right in that corner as we were passing them. Like, we weren't even to our spot, and they already had a fish in the boat. I don't know if it was a keeper, but that keyed me in that the fish were biting pretty good. Once I threw the topwater around for maybe 20 minutes altogether, I decided topwater probably wasn't happening. So then I picked up the 6 Sense mini mag and the chartreuse crappie, okay? And I just started covering these little branches that are right off the shore here. I'm trying to get the ones that are a little bit farther offshore, maybe 3-4 foot of water. And I make maybe 5 casts with it, and I'm probably on like this branch right here. I hook the biggest bass I've ever seen in Kansas or Nebraska. I set the hook on this thing. It comes up. It doesn't jump all the way, but the side of it comes up to the surface of the water. This thing is gigantic. I'm talking 7+ for sure. She dives back down, and I'm just putting pressure on her, and she just pulls off, and I was heartbroken. So, but I was confident because that was like right away with the crankbait. I go, yes, this is going to be awesome. So, since those guys were over that way, I continue to work down this bank with the crankbait, and I'm getting no bites, but I'm sticking to it because I'm thinking this big one already hit this thing, so it might be like a 5 bite kind of day, but they're going to all be bigs. So I continue to work here. I decided to look back in here to see if there's any spawners as I work back here. Nothing's happening at all. Start looking around, nothing. So then we decided to go back down this bank. Those guys had moved farther to the east, so I felt pretty good going down this bank. Continued to throw the crankbait, and then getting down here, I broke the crankbait off. So then I picked up the swim jig, the bluegill colored slackline swim jig, and started throwing that thing around. First, I was working it up pretty high in the water column and bouncing off trees, things like that, not getting any bites. So then I get about here, and I decide to start dragging it along the bottom, reeling it at a decent pace, but just enough for it to tick along the bottom. And like 2 casts in, boom, I catch a short right next to the boat. And then I go right through here, and I'm casting right down the center of this little pass between the trees and dragging it right along the bottom, and boom, I hook a nice one, get it up to the boat, and it's like a 4.5-pound walleye. I was like, damn, we got dinner in the boat, but this doesn't help us with the tournament. So then we continue working down this bank, and I'm not kidding you, we catch like 15 more bass, but not a single one of them is 15 inches, all on the swim jig. I tried a little bit of other stuff, some flipping stuff in between, but I was catching them in these outer trees, and these were in 6 or 7 foot of water, and on the inner tree stuff. So I tried both. I got bit on both, just was not getting any bigs. So get all the way down to this thing, get up here to this flat. I cast around a little bit on this flat, and then I'm like, okay, what are we going to do? So I decided, I made a decision, and this is the turning point right here that probably cost me the tournament. Well, maybe not cost me the tournament, it cost me not getting a 0. So anyway, I decide that grass that I thought I saw on the satellite is sticking inside my head over here. So I said, you know what? Let's run over there and just see if there's grass. So we go running in here, weaving through the trees. It takes like 15 minutes to get back in here. Weaving through the trees. There's a bunch of sticks. There's tons of fish. So on this thing, I've got my forward-facing sonar in scout mode this whole time. There's fish everywhere, okay? So there's obviously walleye. Oh, and another thing, that walleye had like a 6-inch gizzard shad sticking out of its throat. So you know what they're eating up in there. There's gizzard shad running this creek channel. There's bass, walleye, everything up there wants to eat them. Okay. So anyway, I go up here. There's fish everywhere on the graph. Probably a lot of walleye in these pockets of the trees because it was like 10 or 12 foot of water. There's two boats sitting back in here, but they were working their way back up this bank. So I work my way in here, and these trees are so thick I can barely get my boat through it. So I try to find a path. I get through here, and there's a little drop off right here in front of this cove, and I decide to start working that with a big worm, flipping, Ozark rig, creature hog, things like that, and just nothing biting. Get up here, and there's literally no grass at all. It's just mud. So completely no grass. And then I'm like, screw it. We need to just get out of here. It's pretty muddy back in this cove, muddier than I expected. So I said we need to get out of here. But it took me literally 20 minutes to get out of here because my boat was stuck in the mud and it was a real pain in the butt. But I got out of here finally. And I said, okay, let's go check out this pocket. This is my other confidence spot on this lake. There's several boats back in here. The guys that won that day were sitting right here out on this point. That's where they love to fish. I've seen them there multiple times. So I go back in here. I said, okay, I know there's a nice little drop right in here. There's some brush along it right here. There's a nice spawning flat. So I start casting around, throwing a chatterbait, throwing another square bill, things like that. No bites at all. Work my way around here. And I know there's another channel swing bank right here along this island. So I pick up the Ozark rig and I said, I'm just going to flip this whole bank. And I caught like 7 fish right in here. I got a smallmouth and like 6 largemouth, all of them shorts. So I was like, what in the heck? So it's getting later. It's like noon or 1 at this point. I'm pretty discouraged. Can't catch a keeper. So my son has never caught a smallmouth before. He said, I would love to try to catch a smallmouth. I said, well, what the hell? Let's go up to the dam, throw around a drop shot. Maybe there's some bigger smallmouth up there. See what can happen. Oh, before we did that, we worked our way around, fished this little pocket too with no bites here. So we got bites all along here, caught fish around here, nothing in here or here. Was completely dead. So we blast off to the dam. Now, generally when I fish a dam, I like to fish either the ends, okay, or if there's something unique along the dam, I fish that. Nothing unique along this dam. There were boats sitting down here and guys on the bank. So I said, screw it. We'll go down here, fish this nice transition. Bunch of fish on forward facing, but nothing biting. We worked our way down about 100 yards down this side. Then the boats on the north side of the dam had left. Oh, we also got checked by a game warden right here. He was super nice. Checked our licenses, checked our walleye, everything checked out. Then he was on a jet ski. Glad he didn't fall in. It was a little bit chilly. But anyway, we come down to this side. There's some nice trees in the water. Fished out these trees, and then started working our way down this part of the dam here. And I did catch a smallmouth down here, but again, it was maybe a 12-inch fish. My son did not get anything, and the smallmouth bite was definitely not fire. So then I'm just like, we got like an hour and a half left, and it only takes like 9 minutes to run down the lake. I said, screw it, go back to the beginning area, all the way back here, and just run this bank. I said, I'm just gonna run it with a swim jig. Actually, I wanted to run it flipping because I had ran it with a swim jig, did not get any keepers. So I said, let's go flipping. So I just start flipping this whole thing because the Ozark rig was fire over there with the creature hog from Maxon on it. I said, let's start just flipping all these trees. So I'm flipping them. I caught 3 or 4 more shorts, but nothing at all. I caught a white bass. So then I get partway down here. It's like 30 minutes left in the day. I picked up the glide bait and just went to swimming that thing around. I didn't even get a follower on it. Nothing. Ended up having to run back. Didn't have a fish in the boat. Made it back. And then the crazy thing is, like I said, this tournament generally needs at least 20, 21, 22 pounds to win this thing. And today the tournament was only won with 14 pounds, and 5 guys did not catch a fish. So something's going on at Cedar Bluff. I don't know what it is. If there's too much food in the water, if the bass population is declining. They had high water in 2019, which would have meant they had a really good spawn. And that should be starting to dwindle now. So it's been 6 years. Some of those big fish might be dying off, and you're seeing a decent year class of fish from a couple years ago when they had a little bit higher water. But something's happening. Some guys think there's a smallmouth are picking up and the largemouth are dying off. But I don't know what it is, but Bags are definitely down at Cedar, and that's not just in our tournament. I know on Sunday, 12 pounds something won it, so definitely not as good as it has been, and something is going on at Cedar. Okay, so what went wrong or what I did wrong? First thing that went wrong was got beat to my starting spot. Not a big deal because this is a pretty big area, and I think the whole area is decent. Caught fish all along it. Number two thing, lost that giant fish. Again, don't know that there's much I could have done differently. He just pulled off. Might have had it snagged. Who knows? Didn't get to see where the hook was, but definitely pulled off and did not get him in the boat. So that's definitely a negative. That would have been big fish for sure and would have helped tremendously. So what went wrong mostly and what I could have done differently is I should have, instead of making the decision right here to go look for the grass and then go over to that cove over there, I should have turned back around, went down this bank with different baits. So I caught him on the swim jig. I was not catching keepers on the swim jig. I should have turned around and flipped this whole thing with an Ozark rig or a jig and just worked my way back down this bank. And then if that didn't work, worked my way back up the bank with like maybe a drop shot or something finesse, come back through with the glide bait the whole way. Because there's fish there. I knew there was fish there. I knew there was big ones there. There's plenty of fish there. Should have just stayed there in that area all day long. And I think if I would have grinded the whole day in that area, I could have caught some keepers eventually. I find that whenever I go to these other areas, I tend to waste a lot of time, especially areas I don't know. I didn't waste much time in here. I think that was pretty effective, but it had been fished out by that time that day. There was already 3 or 4 boats in there. That would have been a decent starting spot for sure. Other than that, wasted time going to the dam, and I kind of knew that was a waste of time. I was at that point had cashed in, so wasted a lot of time in this cove. Over an hour, definitely wasted, but should have stuck in here quite a bit longer for sure. And that's the move I should have made for sure. All right, what went right in the tournament? First of all, besides the first little hiccup, the boat ran pretty good. Okay, got back in here, hooked a giant. That was right. My starting spot selection was spot on. I think this is where the tournament could be won. Like I said, if I'd have grinded it out, caught a ton of fish in here. Also, my secondary spot or tertiary spot, I don't know, was also a good spot right here. Probably should have just focused on this area, like I said, but so I think I picked the right starting spot. Fished it thoroughly with the first pass. Hooked a giant, caught a bunch of fish. So those things were right. Didn't lose a lot of fish. So I feel like I fished thoroughly on the way through that first pass. Also, just didn't flip much or slow down. So did a few things right, but other than that, did a lot of things wrong to not catch a single keeper. All right, let's break down lessons learned in this tournament. So, like I said, first lesson learned is don't leave bass to go find other bass. I knew there was fish here. I knew there was big fish here. Should have stayed in this area and grounded it out all day. Those are the types of decisions that make or break your tournaments. Those are the kind of decisions that Kevin Van Dam used to make. Know when to leave, know when to stay. That's a huge deal. Also, know that these spots I've studied big time going to this tournament. I knew this spot was a reload factory. You could go over this all day long, and the bass would continue to fill up in this area. You couldn't really overfish it. It probably has the majority of the fish in this half of the lake, so definitely should have stayed there. And if you see fish on the graph, if you see bait fish, that's also other signs that you need to stay where you're at, especially on these smaller lakes. Like, you're not going to go find something else that has, like, the pattern's the same in the whole lake. So once you found them, just stay there, period. That's a lesson learned. That's something I've had to learn, especially moving to Nebraska. And I'm learning every single time I go out. So, and then also another lesson to learn is just have fun while you're out there. Don't get frustrated. Don't get discouraged. Go out there, catch fish. You're out there fishing all day on a beautiful day. So go out there and just have a fun time no matter what, no matter what's happening. And take a walleye home for dinner because it's delicious. So final takeaways from this tournament, definitely was tough for everybody that was involved. The guys that are locals struggled too. They only, like I said, the guys that normally catch over 20 pounds on the thing had like 14. Charlie, I think he had 10 or 11 the first day, and he's usually a hammer on this thing. So definitely a surprise. Surprise for me. I thought maybe I would easily catch a limit on this thing. I thought it was gonna be tough. I thought it'd be easy to get, you know, 12 to 15 pounds. It was gonna be hard to get 20, but surprised me. So Cedar Bluff's an awesome lake. I hope we get some water. That's a definite takeaway. Need some water to get a really good spawn in this thing. Hopefully next spring or the spring after that, and this thing will build back up and be awesome again. Maybe get some grass going back in this thing again. Would be really awesome to see this lake take off. It's out here in the middle of nowhere. It's a great fishing lake. 3.5 hours away, which stinks. Um, so guys, if you're down there, go fish it. It's a super fun lake. I think there's still a lot of bigs in there to be caught, just a little tougher to find than they used to be. So our next tournament's coming up here at Lake McConaughey on June 7th. Going to be a smallmouth smash fest, unless a few guys can catch some largemouth, which tends to win if you can find them. We'll review that thing when it happens and break it down again for you. Hopefully, do a little bit better. I think I'll be able to catch some keepers there for sure. Usually isn't too tough on that lake, but wish me luck for it, guys. This is another breakdown. Wish I didn't have to say I zeroed again. It's been a tough year and a half, been in a total slump. Have not caught a limit over maybe 11 pounds in a year and a half in a tournament. So really struggling, but we're going to figure this thing out. We're going to right the ship, and we are going to dominate one of these tournaments for sure and come back and just really do well. So check us out at McConaughey. Going to be coming up after the June 7th tournament, guys. So thanks for watching. Tight lines. Get out there and fish. Catch some giants, and let me see them. Take care, guys.